Good morning. I'm Reverend Kristen Green, your guest minister this morning, and it is an honor and a privilege to be among you. As a call to worship today, I offer the prophetic words of Rosemary Bray McNatt. By no means are we, Unitarian Universalists, perfect. We often fail as much as we succeed. Yet even when we have broken our vows 1,000 times, we return to the essential work of justice and liberation for all. We do the best work when we remember what church is and what it is not. Church is not a place to hide. It is not the place to get away from the world. It is not the place where we get to pretend that the lives we live and our particular situations are not terribly complex, often confusing, and sometimes depressing. Church is the place where we stand with one another, look the world in the eye, attempt to see clearly, and gather strength to face what we see with courage, and yes, with joy. In this spirit, we light this chalice, in a spirit of faith, hope, love, courage, and yes, joy. Come, let us worship together.
My life goes on. Hello, hello to each of you who are gathered in the Zoom congregation today or in this space at All Souls. I'm Reverend Louise. My pronouns are she, her. It is my joy to greet you today as we continue our 201-year-old journey as justice-speaking, spirit-growing, beloved community that seeks to welcome all souls. If you're visiting us for the first time, or you're still feeling newish, would you mind raising your hand so we could see you? Yay. And I already met a couple people this morning who said, first time in the sanctuary? So let's be welcoming to all in this time. You can look at the access for the order of service, is on the QR code that's in the pew. Or if you'd like to use a printed program, they're available. There is a link in the Zoom chat if you would like to see or follow the order of service in that way. And if you'd like to know what's going on in this large, burgeoning, on the verge congregation, then the best way to stay up to date, you hear this every week, but if you've never done it, sign up for the e-weekly, which is just a button right on the home page, and then you can know what's happening. Each week, we recognize that our city, and indeed this very church, are built on lands taken from indigenous people. We lament this injustice. We continue to see the damage from these actions. And on this weekend of Indigenous Peoples' Day, may we take it even more to heart to wonder what we might do to be part of justice. The closest village to our church site was Nacotchtank. Anacostia is the word that comes from that. It was right across Ward 7 on the Anacostia River. The residents were part of the Piscataway group of peoples present in the DC and the Maryland region. And of course, the Piscataway lineage residents are here today and will remain. I encourage you to research the indigenous people of the land where you reside, whether it be here or Virginia or much farther away on Zoom. And wherever you are, practice your commitment to our 8th principle of beloved community by learning what Indigenous peoples are doing to organize and supporting their action. We'd like to take some time to greet one another now. If you're online, you're invited to turn your camera on and go into gallery view and wave. And if you're here in the sanctuary, we're going to meet and mingle a bit. If you'd like to just stay in your pew and wave, that is a-okay, and we will move around and say hello. Hey, y'all. Come on back. Come on back. I like to hear that sound, that friendly hubbub. Thank you. And you know, you can talk more after the service. So thank you for being so warm and welcoming today. Oh, that was awesome. Thank you, Renee Fleming and Pam Kukas. Is Pam here, actually? Yay. First, in announcements today, we welcome Reverend Kristen Green back to the pulpit. Yay! She has crossed the river from UU Fairfax, and it's great to see her back in the house. I look forward to her message. Her bio is at the top of the order of service, and we are so glad that Reverend Kristen is here today. Next Sunday, October 16th, is our fall Find Your Ministry Fair. And for the first time in a few years, this is in person in Pierce Hall. So if you've been wandering about, wondering where you might connect in some small way, this is your chance to see a menu of things, ways that we might further be in relationship with you. So much excitement. I mean, Find Your Ministry Fair traditionally makes people scream with joy. So I hope that you go. And if you can't, we have those videos online, and you can view them anytime, anywhere for our Zoom people who may not be able to go into Pierce. On Saturday, November 5th, you heard this last week if you were around, we are capping off our year of celebrating 200th anniversary with a fun and fundraising party. There will be beverages, snacks, and jazz on the terrace if you wish to stay outside. Then we will move to a buffet dinner and DJ dancing through the decades in Pierce Hall. Yeah. Childcare will be available with advanced registration. And you're invited to wear that special something from whichever decade you choose and come enjoy the fellowship. I'm thinking 70s myself. Tickets will go on sale this week. Mark the date now, November 5th, Saturday night. We have another date to mark that is important. On the evening of Saturday, December 3rd, the All Souls Jubilee Singers will present a concert that marks 45 years of singing. Yeah. This choir was established by Dr. Isai Barnwell in 1977. The Jubilee Singers have provided continuous music ministry at All Souls and its surrounding community. The concert will feature music spanning from some selections first done in the early and then again through the decades to some more recent presentations. Invited special guests will be Dr. Barnwell herself and alumni of the Jubilee Singers. So we hope to see you there. That is December 3rd. As we move into our time of congregational care, I'd like to share an announcement that many in the music community know and that we are ready to announce to the congregation. And I would like to do it in the words of Leonard Stark. This is a message from Leonard. Dear All Souls congregation and community, on January 31st, 2023, I will mark my last day as the director of the All Souls Jubilee Singers. I am deeply grateful to the singers for the opportunity to have shared music with them for more than 25 years. I also express gratitude to this congregation for the love and support shown to both the singers and me throughout my tenure at All Souls. The Jubilee Singers and this congregation will hold a special, warm place in my heart forever. Involvement in music making will somehow continue into my future. Moreover, may the Jubilee Singers continue to prosper and deliver messages of love, hope, and social justice for many years to come. And what he doesn't say, because he is lettered, is that he will become director emeritus of this choir. And may we have a moment of appreciation.
Thank you so much. This is unscripted and not in the transcript, but I just have to respond to you for that warm and gracious acknowledgement. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to be with this congregation, and we'll be crossing paths sometimes, I guess, in the future. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay, that was the hors d'oeuvre, Leonard, so get used to being under the spotlight later on. Now moving further into our time of congregational care. We had a beautiful celebration of life for Ms. Adenia Taylor on Friday. Thank you to every person who helped create that memorial, and we appreciate the beautiful flower arrangements here, down the hallway, flowers everywhere, that were created by Meg Staines and were a gift for this beautiful service. We say congratulations to Valerie Folks Bynum. She is our longtime bookkeeper on the birth of her next grandchild, Erin Carter Martin, born on September 25th. If you happen to see her during the week in the hallway, she's got the pictures of whom she calls Princess Erin, and she is a beauty. We are thinking of Neil Manzullo this weekend. Neil's mother is in the hospital for some diagnosis around anemia. His mother has been in long-term treatment for a heart condition and is also awaiting a heart transplant. So we're really thinking of all that Neil and Danielle and extended family hold in this situation. And I can't tell if Neil's here or not, but our thoughts are with you. And now your names and your situations into this space. You may offer in the chat something that you would like to share with the online congregation, or speak your names aloud in this moment of shared prayer. And now will you meditate with me? Please take a few deep breaths and settle into your body, this body, the one that brought you, and be here in this place and online. As we breathe into all the changes and the joys and the challenges of being congregation, we seek to be a place of welcome, of refuge. May this be a place where your spirit refreshes and grows. May we each be one who provides that for someone else, and someone else, and someone else. And let this community continue to evolve and deepen our spiritual journey as we seek to be true to our highest ideals in living. We are here to shine. Breathe into the silence of this space. Blessed be. Amen.
for all those spoken and unspoken prayers on our hearts. May they be held by a love that does not let us go. I am from that cozy space underneath the grand piano, from Diet Coke and Kraft mac and cheese. I am from the blue-gray siding and red brick, green, ivy-colored, scaling the chimney. I am from the aloe vera above the sink, always alive and well when someone needs to be soothed. I am from heart-shaped biscuits on Valentine's Day and a wicked sense of humor. From Cynthia and Rita. I am from arriving early enough to turn the car off and from waiting until the last minute. I am from always be kind and always do your best. I am from the kind of Baptists who become Quakers when they retire. Quiet and kind with a deep love for potluck dinners. I am from San Antonio and a second chance through adoption. I'm from cinnamon apples and blackberry pies, from the funny stories and laughter so hard that people at the restaurant gave us looks. I am from untold stories of lives cut too short, bookshelves and picture albums, precious snapshots of lives well lived. If you're here in person this morning, you received a handout with your bulletin that includes the formula for the poem that I just read, my own version. The original was written by George L. Lyon in 1993. And the author doesn't call it a formula poem because she doesn't want you to feel restricted. But I have found that the formula serves as a very useful prompt for writing one's own version of the I Am From poem. As you can tell, it's an introduction unlike any other. It calls forth a different kind of identity through food and household items and descriptions of family members. I've written and rewritten this poem a number of times over the years, and I really enjoy revisiting the previous versions for comparison. It's a feel-good exercise for me, and I hope you'll try it and share your poems with each other. You may or may not be able to tell from my poem that I am a daughter with two mothers, that I am adopted, that I had a memorable and pleasant childhood. I didn't get a chance to tell you that I identify as a mixed race, queer, cis woman assigned female at birth. I identify as a drummer, a poet, and a minister. I identify as a liberal, a Democrat, and an activist. I'm a friend, a colleague, and a cousin. There are so many hats to wear and so many elements of my being that I can't even get into, but there's only so much I can tell you about my life in a first meeting, and we tend to tell the parts that we're proud of, right? Identity is defined as the concept of who we are, or an amalgamation of our experiences, cultural backgrounds, or internal struggles, the person we put out for others to see. In other words, our identity is developed and influenced by our interactions with the world. If any of you have read The Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about domestication that happens in our early years. It begins largely with our parents or guardians, but is quickly followed by other elements of society that seek to domesticate us into a formula. We're told what is right and wrong. We're told how to behave, what is acceptable, and what to believe. We learn a specific language that wasn't our choice. And we didn't choose our own names, yet our name becomes a core part of our identity. Ruiz says that at an early age, we learn about punishment and reward and form an image of perfection in order to try and be good enough to get the reward. We live by an image of how we should be in order to be accepted by everyone else, and our fear of being rejected becomes the fear of not being good enough. In the end, we are not good enough for ourselves because we don't fit with our image of perfection, so we punish ourselves with our own judgment. Now, in Unitarian Universalism, we embrace the both and. In addition to all the identities that I listed, and on top of my lighthearted I Am From poem, I am also imperfect, prejudiced, racist, classist, sexist, ageist, and ableist. I have broken my vows 1,000 times, and I endeavor to be a better version of me each day, each moment. I make choices to be better, and I learn from others when I make mistakes. Like the concept of Ubuntu, I am because you are. And I am so grateful that I do not live in a vacuum, so I can learn and relearn and unlearn as needed. We also embrace the inherent worth and dignity of every person in Unitarian Universalism. So out of the domestication that Ruiz describes in the Four Agreements, we are called through our faith to embrace progress and not perfection. Punishing ourselves is not a spiritual practice of Unitarian Universalism. We are reminded by our faith that we are loved exactly as we are, while also honoring our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. May we continue to learn about ourselves, our shortcomings, our broken vows, so that we might grow roots and branches that will enhance the complexity of our lives and identities. May we learn that there is more to life than what we should be. And in this process of embracing all our identities, it's necessary to identify how we are called to take up space. What are boundaries of ourselves in community? Where do I end and you begin? In 1993, coincidentally the same year that George Ella Lyon wrote the I Am From poem, Dr. Maria Root wrote and published a Bill of Rights for people like her, for people of mixed heritage. It was the very first time that some of these thoughts had been put to paper. Dr. Root says that children of mixed marriages never had anything like this. We have had feelings all along, but not put into any kind of structure. It gives people something to talk about and feel recognized. And I'd like to read it to you as a person of mixed race heritage myself. I have the right not to justify my existence in this world, not to keep the races separate within me, not to be responsible for people's discomfort with my physical ambiguity, not to justify my ethnic legitimacy. I have the right to identify myself differently than strangers expect me to identify myself differently from how my parents identify me, to identify myself differently from my brothers and sisters, to identify myself differently in different situations. I have the right to create a vocabulary to communicate about being multiracial, to change my identity over my lifetime and more than once, to have loyalties and identification with more than one group of people, to freely choose whom I befriend and love. It's been nearly 30 years since Dr. Root shared these words with the world. And in year 2000, her words influenced the United States Census to include multiracial classifications. In 2022, these words inspire me not only as a person of mixed race heritage, but also as a minister. What microaggressions do I participate in? What can I learn about myself? What can I remember about others? It brought up a whole range of questions that prompted me to reflect on how I treat myself and others. And then a few weeks ago, hundreds of students in Virginia, where I serve a congregation, students walked out of school in protest of the governor's anti-trans policy rollbacks. Some of the youth in my congregation participated and were applauded in worship last week. Something really interesting happened. On that day, Thursday, September 27th, as the impact became very real and the students walked out of schools and the walkouts continued, conservative groups started to get very nervous and took to social media to figure out who was behind all of this organizing. Had the teachers done it? Was there some adult with a liberal agenda that had been guiding these kids to walk out? And they found nothing. The kids themselves, the students, they organized. And they were brilliant organizers too. You've got to organize who to do what, by when, and they nailed all three. These kids are bravely taking up space and setting their boundaries. They're identifying elements of themselves that they want to live out loud. And they're banding together to protect one another along the way, to reaffirm their inherent worth and dignity and their right to be themselves. I attended the school board meeting on Thursday, and I was very encouraged to see students, parents, and teachers in great numbers speaking and holding rainbow flags for each other. It feels like almost 30 years is enough time to develop another Bill of Rights, perhaps for trans and non-binary people. And I would never endeavor to write something for them without them. I read Dr. Root's words as a mixed race person, but I cannot read words as a person who identifies or lives a life of a non-binary or trans person. However, I'm inspired to adapt Dr. Root's words in order to say something brave to our trans and non-binary kin. Imagine it as a prayer, if you will, a blessing that we can send right now together. You have the right not to justify your existence in this world, not to keep your gender within yourself, not to be responsible for people's discomfort with physical ambiguity, not to justify your sexual or physical legitimacy. You have the right to identify yourself differently than strangers expect you to identify yourself differently from how your parents identify you, to identify yourself differently from your siblings, to identify yourself differently in different situations. You have the right to create a vocabulary to communicate about being trans or non-binary, to change your identity over your lifetime and more than once. to have loyalties and identification with more than one group of people, to freely choose whom you befriend and love. To each and every one of you, know that you are loved unconditionally by a divine love that will not let you go. Know that your progress is worth more than the illusion of perfection. Know that to honor the complexities is to honor your divinity. Take heart in the words of Adrienne Marie Brown, who says, "I am not afraid of what I came here to do. I am made of stardust." We are not afraid of what we are called to do. We are made of God. Blessed be, may it be so, and amen.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Hughes Trotter. My pronouns are she, her, and I have the honor of serving each of you as the Executive Director of All Souls. Oh, thank you. I don't know if you all have noticed, but there's been an energy that's been building in here since Homecoming Sunday. And the start of the church year has brought so many of you back into the physical and the virtual space, to all of our Zoomers who are online with us today. Your energy and enthusiasm are quite honestly fueling the work that I and the rest of the staff do every week. And speaking for myself, you all bring me great, great joy. Our commitment to you is unwavering, and we need your help. The church ended the fiscal year in June with a $400,000 deficit. That amount is more than 4 times what we anticipated and what you, the congregation, approved. So here's what we know for sure. That deficit is unsustainable. We also know that we did not arrive at this place overnight. Some key factors over many years contributed to our current state, and still we are presented with a great opportunity as a result. So let me tell you a bit about what I mean. The culture of generosity has been primarily centered around the large donors of the church, and particularly those who were able to contribute generously to the capital campaign. This quite naturally over time allowed the focus to shift to just a small percentage of the largest givers to give to the church year after year. Contributions dropped when connections to the church loosened because of the conflict. And ending of a nearly 20-year ministry also further frayed ties to All Souls. And then COVID happened, and giving declined more. Increased staff salaries also contributed to that strain. The board approved a budget that increased staff salaries to ensure that the staff were being equitably paid according to UUA guidelines. And the congregation approved these increases with the understanding that giving must increase. Those giving increases also did not occur. And finally, the church received a payroll protection loan that masked the years-long impacts of significant drops in giving. The good news is that we have an opportunity to rebuild our financial house and to make giving a more common good that we all share. Reverend Bill.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, All Souls. I'm Reverend Bill Sinkford, your transitional minister. My pronouns are he and him. I've been talking with many of you about this financial challenge and how to address it. There have been a lot of good questions asked about how All Souls got into this situation. And in a letter, yes, a snail mail letter, you remember those? A snail mail letter that everyone in the All Souls community will receive this week. We speak to those questions. But beyond the questions, what I heard so clearly from everyone I spoke with was your love for this church and the importance of this church in your lives. This is a challenging time, a pivot point in the life of this church, there's no doubt. But all of those conversations and the way All Souls lifts the spirits of the people here in the sanctuary and online, the way All Souls has ministered to so many of us and others for so long, all of that leads me to confidence that this financial challenge can actually become an opportunity for us, an opportunity to invite those whose connections to the church have loosened, to invite them back in, an opportunity to create a more broadly shared and more spiritually grounded culture of generosity here, a culture in which our giving matches the way All Souls helps us live the lives that we would want to live. This financial challenge, I believe, can actually point All Souls toward hope. Now, everyone is going to be asked to step up in support. I want to be clear. For those folks who have lost connection to the church during COVID or before, those folks who stopped giving, and for the new folks and families, some of whom are here who keep coming every week, generous members of All Souls have pledged to match dollar for dollar every one of those returning or new gifts and pledges. Almost $100,000 has already been pledged to match those new and returning gifts. You can applaud for that. Those who attend church online, who just may have never considered giving to All Souls, you will be asked to think about how All Souls nurtures your spirit, and you will be asked to contribute. The virtual church, friends, is here to stay. And for those folks who haven't really understood what it takes to make this place the spirit-growing, justice-seeking home of the Spirit, I want to tell you that it costs more than $2,000 per family, on average, every year, to keep bringing you the worship and religious education, those faith formation programs and justice opportunities. $2,000 per family. Now, we know that not every family can give like that. This is a house of all souls, and we value the diversity of economic circumstances in this sanctuary. But we can all give generously within our means. And if you have been giving to All Souls like you might give to public radio or Doctors Without Borders, if you've been putting a few dollars in the plate as it passes by or sending $5 in through that QR code online, I want you to remember that you count on this church to be here for you in ways that those other worthy organizations, will never be here for you. So, if you've been giving or pledging $100 a year, as many members of this community do, I want you to think about doubling that or tripling it. Regardless of how much you've been giving, I hope you'll think about giving to this church until it feels good. I want you to give until it feels good to you. And if you've been giving but haven't made a pledge, think about making that commitment now. All the members of the Board of Trustees have already increased their pledges, And I think my gift was the first one that was recorded. We already have commitments. In addition to those matching funds, we already have commitments for over $40,000 in increased pledges. And the leadership gifts for the matching fund, those are all in place. So now, it's up to you, to all of you, to all of us. Because All Souls is not this building. All Souls is this community, the souls who gather each week in person and online, the souls that have gathered for so long, and the souls that will gather in the future if we do our part today. For those here in the sanctuary, there is a Funding Our Future pledge card in your order of service. Fill it out now if you're ready to make your pledge of increased support, or fill it out home, but do it today. On Zoom, the purple QR code will take you to that virtual pledge card. We can make this financial challenge into an opportunity to deepen connections, to deepen our commitment, into an opportunity for the Spirit to move here in this place and among us. We can make this the moment when All Souls, with its proud history, chooses to have a hopeful future. This is an invitation to each of us to help fund our future, an invitation to be part of an ongoing journey toward wholeness, toward diverse, spirit-growing, justice-seeking, beloved community that is our vision and our dream. The journey toward wholeness that is the journey for each and every one of us. The journey toward wholeness for all souls. Our offering will now be gratefully received. The ushers will receive it here in the sanctuary. Online, you can use the QR code or text to ASCU to 73256. Thank you.
As benediction words, I offer this pledge written by Adrienne Marie Brown. I am living a life I don't regret, a life that will resonate with my ancestors and with as many generations forward as I can imagine. I am attending to the crises of my time with my best self. I am of communities that are doing our collective best to honor our ancestors and all humans to come. Blessed be, may it be so, and amen.
Are you ready, my brother? Oh, yeah. Ready for the journey? Oh, yeah. Do you want to see what Jesus? Oh, yes. I'm waiting for the chariot because I'm ready to go. I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm gonna ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm getting ready for the judgment day. My Lord, my Lord. Are you ready, my sister? Oh, yeah. Are you ready for the journey? Oh, yeah. Do you want to see what Jesus? Oh, yes. I'm waiting for the chariot because I'm ready to go. Ride in the chariot to see my Lord. My sins were taken away. Ride in the chariot to see my Lord. Was snatched from the miry clay. Ride in the chariot to see my Lord. Till judgment day. Ride in the chariot to see my Lord. Ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. Ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm getting ready for the judgment day. My Lord, my Lord. Ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. Ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm gonna ride in the chariot to see my Lord.
Thank you, choir, for all this wonderful music this morning. Go out from this place exactly as you are, brave and bold. This world needs you. Go in peace.